Locked on Big 12 host Josh Neighbors joins me today to talk all things Big 12, the success they've had in the NCAA tournament, what he's looking forward to with Cincinnati joining the conference hopefully by 2023 and more. It's all coming up on Locked On Bearcats.
Our Locked On Bearcats, your daily podcast on the Cincinnati Bearcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks so much for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen of every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, where today's episode is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. It is Thursday, March 24th of 2022. The Sweet 16 begins tonight in the NCAA tournament. We have one Big 12 team in action tonight. That is the Texas Tech Red Raiders. We also have a future Big 12 team in action tonight. That is the Houston Cougars. Texas Tech takes on Duke. Houston takes on Arizona. And one better way to kick off Sweet 16 regional weekend of the NCAA tournament with the host of the Locked On Big 12 podcast, all things Big 12, the conference Cincinnati is moving to hopefully by 2023. None other than Josh Neighbors. And Josh, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. So much to get to. First off, I got to ask you just your thoughts on the Big 12 so far in the NCAA tournament. 3 teams in the Sweet 16, 6 teams that won a first-round game. And even though 3 teams lost in the second round, I saw some fight. I saw some tenacity, some grit from those 3 teams. And, of course, the 3 teams moving on. So what are your thoughts on what the conference has done so far in the Big Dance?
6-0 is a great start for the first round. I mean, we've seen a bunch of conferences not even get that far. So 6-0 is a great start. The top 3 teams, I thought we'd get all 3 of them in the next round. Carolina played a great game for the most part against Baylor. And Baylor, disappointing, obviously, not defending their title as far as they want. But with a 7-man rotation and losing Cryer and Jonathan Chamwa-Chachua, I mean, what are you supposed to do when you lose that many important players? Think about how many guys they lost last year. The fact they're a 1 seed this year was pretty crazy. So then also, Tech looked like Texas Tech. KU struggled some in that second game against Creighton, but Remy Martin was fantastic. So it was good to see. Texas, they're right where they should be. That first round win is more than Shaka Smart could say during his time at Texas. So they're on schedule. TCU, I mean, honestly, should have had a couple free throws with Mike Miles to win against Arizona. I'm not sure that wasn't a foul call. I mean, I know there was conversation about it on Twitter, but there's a clear angle of where Koloko is got a leg across on Mike Miles. So that should have been a foul. But, I mean, they won a tournament game, and they beat the hell out of Seton Hall doing so. So that's pretty impressive. And then, obviously, Iowa State, I mean, just fantastic. Classic Iowa State. They get throttled a couple times in their last couple games. Got killed against Tech in the Big 12 tournament. Scored 39 points, I think, at home in their last home game, and then come out and beat an LSU team that didn't have a coach, but still a lot of talent, and then a Wisconsin team that was a little banged up, but Gabe Kalsher went crazy in game number 2. So it's great to see 3 teams. That's what I thought they'd have in the Sweet 16. I just did not think Iowa State would be taking the place of Baylor.
What's the Big 12 like? Because I've heard cases that the Big 12 is the best conference in college basketball, which I agree with that. I've heard cases the Big 10 is. But, Josh, the Big 12 has had so much success in the NCAA tournament as of late. Last year, Baylor wins the national championship. 2019, Texas Tech was an egregious defensive breakdown away from winning the national championship. They led by 10 late in the second half against Virginia. Kansas went to the Final Four in 2018. So
in 2020, they almost had 2 1 seeds too. I mean, Baylor and KU is probably a favorite to win.
I was going to say, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think Kansas would have won that tournament. So the Big 12, in my opinion, is the best conference in the country in college basketball. So what's it like? Because from afar, being in Cincinnati, with the Big 12 regular season, there were shootout games. There were just grinded out games, all out, just seemingly brawls. What's it like? What's Big 12 basketball like in the regular season?
Fran Fraschilla calls a lot of the games. He says he expects hand-to-hand combat in a lot of the games. That's what it is. And sometimes detrimental. I mean, the referees do let way too much go. Like you're seeing in the NCAA tournament, a lot more is getting whistled than it does in Big 12 conference play. Like Texas is a great example. I think Purdue shot 46 free throws, I think. I mean, Texas, going in is just kind of played the way they always do. And so, like, that's the thing is that, it's a physical league. They let you play, but that helps in the end. I mean, Iowa State in the end was tougher than both LSU, who's known for their defense, obviously no Will Wade, known for their defense. And then you also bring up Wisconsin, too, known as a tough team as well. They go and they beat Wisconsin. So this is a team, as my dog shaking himself out there. These teams, they're so physical. They're so tough. And it's a joy to watch. It's fun to watch because this is not a star-driven league. Sure, Trey Young comes around, and so does Cade Cunningham come around. You got stars too, but they're older stars, right? They're Desmond Baines who are going to the league. There are guys like Tyrese Halliburton was younger, but Tyrese Halliburton's, Davion Mitchell's. Those are the guys who are the stars in this league. And Scott Drew said it like you can't play freshmen and win the Big 12. Look at Kansas. Look who's on that team. That's not. There's no Andrew Wiggins, right? I mean, it is Remy Martin, who's off the bench. Oshai Baji's an older guy. Christian Brown's had years of experience. Dave McCormick, years of experience. Jalen Wilson's got experience. And then they go and get experience, and Jalen Coleman lands at Josie Esfeld. Like, this league demands experience. And that's why Baylor's run is so impressive. But they brought guys who had experience from different places. So to me, that's what this league is. It's a lot of experience. Like, it takes experienced guys and maturity to win this league because it's so tough night in and night out.
Two-part question off of that, Josh, because I think that's a great point. Number one, does that make what Bill Self and the Jayhawks did with 14 straight regular season titles, 14 straight regular season titles in the Big 12 from 2015 through 2018, does it make it that more impressive that they were able to accomplish that given the roster turnovers at various points in that run year in and year out? And then number two, is that why Baylor, despite all their injuries to the guys you mentioned at the outset of this segment, does that make what Baylor did this year impressive because they had the experience to overcome the adversity that they faced?
Yeah, I mean, Bill Self in any way, shape, or form, like you put it, in any conference, 14 straight's amazing. In the Big 12, where a lot of these schools look, yeah, you're in football country. Yes, you are. But think about the coaches that have been around during Bill Self's tenure. I mean, had guys, like Rick Barnes and Bruce Weber, and now we had Porter Mosier, and Mike Boynton's an excellent coach who was there, and Brad Underwood was there for a period of time as well. I mean, there's and Scott Drew is now there too. Mark Adams, Chris Beer, like it's unbelievable how many good coaches have come through this league, and so I think it's important to note, like, yeah, it's just such a difficult league, and that's what I think Kansas fans wish they had a couple more titles, right, than the one they do have. But that run of good play has been amazing, and once again, they wish they had more than one title, but it still makes it amazing. And then for Baylor, yeah, because they lost Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, Maceo Teague, and Mark Vital, 4 guys who were starters on a championship team. But the reason why they were able to do so well is because James Akinjo is a guy who has played before. Jonathan Chacho, a guy who has played before. Now, Jeremy Sohan and Kendall Brown were great additions, but that team was driven by Flagler and Akinjo, guys with experience. I mean, not always at the top level, starting at the very top, but experience. And also, and for my money, Scott Drew is the best coach in America. So I think that. But what makes this league is the coaches. The coaches are what make this league so spectacular. I mean, the number of guys in this league who have been to a Final Four, it's absurd. So the coaching is what's most impressive to me.
I was going to say, because I'm watching North Carolina and Baylor on Saturday of last week, and Baylor's comes back from down 25. And you can tell, as you mentioned, you say Scott Drew you think is the best coach in the country. And you can tell they have a culture there. He's been there long enough. He's built that Baylor program up gradually, and it culminated with that national championship last year. And then you have Chris Beard. And I'll say, I mean, Mark Adams, what he's done, I didn't really know a lot about him prior to this season, but yet Texas
not many
Tech,
did.
They do now. And I mean, Texas Tech, I'd argue what they've done with a coaching change and a complete roster overhaul, and they're in the Sweet 16, and I think they're a trendy pick to beat Duke tonight. So that's going to be interesting. Josh, hold that. We're going to get to what Cincinnati can bring to the Big 12. Would they have made the NCAA tournament with their record this year had they played in the Big 12. But first, Michael, I got to tell our listeners about Run Your Pool. You see, your bracket's busted. Josh, is your bracket busted? Did you do brackets this year?
No, mine is not.
Okay, so you and I are both similar here because mine's not either. Knock on wood. Maybe yours is if you're listening. Don't worry, we believe in second chances, and so do our friends that Run Your Pool. You see, you can round up your friends who picked Baylor, Kentucky, or any other high seed to win it all and start a Sweet 16 pool at runyourpool.com/lockedon, along with Sweet 16 brackets. Run Your Pool offers squares pools, yes, like the Super Bowl, to keep things interesting every week of the tournament. Brackets bust, but the fun doesn't have to stop. They have options to edit scoring, and they offer more intel to make your picks. All stuff you won't find at the big media bracket sites. If you're looking to expand your horizons, Run Your Pool has games for just about every sport, including the NBA, PGA, MLB, and even the Oscars. So once the madness ends, try something new. Plus, they offer full white glove customer support, custom branding, and one of the easiest 3-minute setups you'll ever find. Clearly, we believe in Run Your Pool because we've run Survivor and bracket contests there this year ourselves. Start your second chance Sweet 16 pool and more at runyourpool.com/lockedon. That's runyourpool.com/lockedon. So we've talked about a second chance at your bracket. But now let's talk about some daily fantasy. I love and I hate those buzzer beaters. The drama, but oh, the pain when you were on the other side of it. Can you imagine, Josh, if Arizona had actually put down that dunk at the end of the game on Sunday? That would have been probably the best buzzer beater in history. Anyway, so Stat Heroes NCAA single game pick'ems pits the star players against each other in an amazing hybrid between fantasy and sports gambling. Start focusing on the players you know best with a gameplay that doesn't rely on big spreads, long odds, or funky props. In addition to their pick'em games, they also have dozens of lineups you can comb through to take on head-to-head. Stat Hero is the easiest and fastest way to get your sports action fix. This is what daily fantasy was meant to be. So maybe tonight you're going to take a lineup that has Kevin McCullough in it, Texas Tech taking on Duke. Maybe you're going to take somebody from future Big 12 school Houston, guys like Fabian White Jr. and Kyler Edwards. Sign up for free right now at stathero.com/lockdown. Use promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% deposit match. That's stathero.com/lockdown. Use promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% match. Stathero.com/lockdown. Promo code LOCKEDON. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, thanks for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Sweet 16 action underway tonight, West and South regions of the NCAA tournament. Alex Frank here of Locked On Bearcats. My guest, Josh Neighbors, Locked On Big 12. Josh, I do have to thank you because you were instrumental in helping me join this network last fall, and eventually that led to me getting in contact with our great channel manager at the college channel, Zach Blackerby. So I do owe you a thank you. Maybe I'll hit you up with some Skyline Chili and Montgomery Inn, La Rosa's Pizza, and Grater's Ice Cream up here in Cincinnati. So, you know what? I'll go there because Cincinnati is going to add some food, a food scene to the conference. I was having a conversation with David Ubin and Justin Williams of The Athletic in November. Two great guys, two great writers. Justin, of course, primarily covers Cincinnati strictly. But I want to ask you, what can Cincinnati bring to the Big 12 from both in addition to the great food that we have in the Queen City, what can it bring from a football and a basketball perspectives?
Yeah, so for football, I mean, you're gonna at this point in time, we think they're gonna bring Luke Fickell, right? I mean, that's huge, and this has become Cincinnati's gonna fit right in the Big 12 in terms of Luke Fickell. Like he's a lot like Gundy, and he's a lot like Dave Aranda in the sense of this is not OU in Texas, and they do a really good job of finding the guys that the Ohio States and the Penn States do not want, right? Or the ones that go there and maybe don't get as much playing time. Bring them in and cultivate and build. And this is the strength of the Big 12, the new Big 12, and even this year's Big 12 was the built programs, right? I mean, Iowa State was supposed to be good. That's a Matt Campbell built program. Dave Aranda built this thing up fast, and they are not flashy. Oklahoma State was, you would think about Mike Gundy, right? Offense. Not this year. This was a defensive-minded team that was real close to winning the Big 12 championship game. And so I think Cincinnati, from all those perspectives, they fit right in. And also, it's like a team that's been to the college football playoff. And so I know they're losing OU in Texas, and those brands you can't replace. But from that perspective, I think it's really exciting. Also bring a partner for West Virginia just to have somebody who's nice and close to them, which is good for them. And For basketball, I'm a huge Wes Miller guy. I really do love Wes Miller. The interesting part about the basketball is OU and Texas leaving, two good programs with two really good coaches. Those two teams are perennially Texas usually a tournament team, right? And then Oklahoma, they're always in the bubble, but they're in a lot. They're in last year. They were one of the first teams out this year with a really strong resume. So you're losing two good teams, but you're bringing in Houston. I mean, Kelvin Sampson has built a machine at Houston. BYU is a team that was on the bubble this year as well. I don't think they got in the tournament this year, but they were in NIT, I believe. But they were right there. Johnny Dawkins done a really good job at UCF, and then Wes Miller at Cincinnati eventually is going to get that thing humming, I think. And so they're really not losing a ton from the basketball side too. And it's going to be such a competitive league. There will be a learning curve for those teams. I can guarantee you that because the league is just so difficult. Houston probably not as much. The other teams, yes, but Cincinnati's going to bring in just another strong program, and I think also a lot of attributes in terms of a city and also a region that the Big 12 needs to kind of help facilitate for West Virginia to make the thing closer, and that's going to be a fun rivalry. So I'm excited to see them in there, and both football and basketball, as you mentioned, it's going to be they're a pretty seamless fit.
I made an aside on a show of mine earlier this week. Bob Huggins on Saturday and Sunday was on Inside March Madness after all the games concluded. I thought he was really good on TV. I really love his personality. I'm just gonna throw that out there. But
he's hilarious.
Oh, without question. And the fact
Right.
the fact that they let him come on and what he wears normally when he coaches the game, I think says a
yeah.
lot to
That's
respect.
the first thing I noticed too when I saw it. I was like, this is the
Oh,
most Bob Huggins thing ever.
yeah, but he's very smart. I mean, he's won over 900 games for a reason. He won almost 400 here in Cincinnati for a reason back in the 90s and 2000s. So I want to ask you this, Josh, because you mentioned there's a learning curve to the Big 12, and I agree with you. I think Houston right now could go in the Big 12 and make the tournament easily because you said it. The Final Four last year, Sweet 16, three straight NCAA tournaments. I don't know if people fully remember in 2018, they were a buzzer beater and two missed free throws away from going to the Sweet 16 that year when they faced Michigan, one of the miracle shot by Jordan Poole
Yeah.
and the Wolverines. So what does Cincinnati have to do? Because next year is maybe going to be their final season in the American Athletic Conference. From the stuff I've read, it's most likely going to be, I'm someone that says I'll believe it when I see it. So it could be the last season in the American Athletic Conference next season. What does Cincinnati have to do in basketball next year for them to be ready to play in the Big 12?
Well, you got to look at what Kelvin Sampson's done at Houston because that team has got the blueprint. We talked about how physical Illinois is. They pushed Illinois around. They absolutely pushed them around, and that's a winning formula in this conference. That can work. There's a lot of tough teams, but you can't be soft on a night to night basis. You're going to get pushed around by a league, where some of the guards are the best rebounders in the league, and there's a lot of guys who could shoot. And so I caught some of Cincinnati this year. Caught that one game they had against Houston where Houston came out red hot in the beginning of the game. They've got to get tougher. They're going to have to get tougher. All these schools are, but the way you can do that is transfer portal. You can find these guys. I mean, Houston's done a great job of this, but you can find these guys who can help. From these major programs. Quentin Grimes was a guy that went off for Houston last year. Was a great player. They got him to come in. Kyler Edwards is a guy from Texas Tech. They got to come in as well. So everybody's had to hit the portal hard, but in this league, it's about finding the right kind of portal players. Remy Martin's not necessarily a great fit. He wasn't a fit all year, right? How much does everybody like to hear? Here comes an All-American guy who's an off the ball, on-ball scorer, guy. He's a good jump shooter. That sounds exciting. That sounds fun, right? Those are not the dudes who win this league. Guys like Bryson Williams, who are like these stretch fives from UTEP. Those are the kinds of players that come in and help you win the league. Those are the kinds of guys. James Akinjo is a gritty guard transfer coming in. That's the kind of player that helps you win this league, not necessarily scorers, straight up scorer types. So it's about finding the right kind of guys. But I think Wes Miller is a good coach. I actually thought Carolina should have hired him. I think the results in the tournament have been good for Hubert Davis, but I mean, let's be honest, the regular season was not a beautiful sight for Carolina basketball. First year though, so we'll see what happens there. But I think he's a really good coach, and I think his UNCG teams exhibited a lot of that toughness too. So I think it'll translate. And also, a place like Cincinnati, like that's kind of what the attitude is anyway. It's tough, it's gritty. It's not supposed to always be pretty, and that fits in the Big 12 pretty well. I mean, once again, Baylor and Kansas, it's not always the beautiful game when those teams are playing and winning. Sometimes it's on the defensive end where they're getting it done. Texas Tech too.
See, this is what's so great, Josh. We agree on so many points here because I've said that the Bearcats have to copy what Houston has done the last few seasons. And a few years ago, Houston copied what the Bearcats had done when they went to 9 straight NCAA tournaments. Houston said, okay, look at what Cincinnati's doing. We're going to go out and we're going to get tough players. We're going to get these big body physical guards. We're going to get some big men in the interior, but we're going to get big men that can also stretch out and shoot the threes. I mean, you look at Houston, anybody on that team, it seems like, is a threat to score and shoot from three. So the Bearcats now need to do what Houston has done. Houston's success is what Cincinnati enjoyed for 9 straight years. It's just the Cougars are enjoying far more of it in the postseason. So Cincinnati this year finished 18 and 15, or might have been like
it was 18 and 15. Yep.
18 and 15. See, I lost track of their record because I'm not used to them, being in this position. 7 and 11 in conference play, lost in the quarterfinals to Houston in the AAC tournament. Would they have made? Because I've said repeatedly, if you put them in the Big 12 with that record, that might get them in the tournament. I don't know, because Power 5 conferences will get benefit of the doubt. They will get more teams in the tournament. Would the Bearcats have made the NCAA tournament with their record if they had played in the Big 12 this year?
Yes. Well, it depends. Because I mean, OU was 19 and 16. Same record, identical record. It just going to depend on what that resume looks like for them, because that's really what it means. I mean, Iowa State goes 20 and 11 and goes 7-11 in conference. At one point, Iowa State was in last place. Fun fact: Iowa State has not lost a game to a out of conference opponent. All of their losses were in conference this year, which just shows you how good this league is. I mean, if they had the record, they would have been on the bubble, but also I don't think this Cincinnati team would have been good enough to. It probably would have. And look, this shows you how good the league is. They probably would have been last place. And that wasn't a bad basketball team. I watched them. They were not bad. They were around average, but like around average, I thought Kansas State was a pretty above average team. If Kansas State played in like the ACC this year, they would have made the tournament pretty easily too, I think. So it just matters on, what your early season resume building wins were. But yeah, I mean, a record like that, it can get you in the tournament. But putting together that kind of record, I mean, just ask Porter Moser in Oklahoma. They racked up some big wins this year, some real big wins, and still did not get in just because those losing streaks were tough for them to get over. So the record, would be close, but there's some fine margins in this league.
And Cincinnati will have an opportunity to earn some early season marquee wins on their resume next year because they will be playing, as I mentioned on Locked On Bearcats yesterday, in the Maui Invitational. Texas Tech is playing in that tournament. I mean, I looked at that field yesterday. Holy smokes, is that field stacked. I mean, you got Texas Tech, you got Louisville. If they, it'll be interesting to see what Kenny Payne can do down there. You got Arizona, you have Creighton. It's a great field. Yeah, I can't. Thanksgiving weekend's going to be a lot of fun with food, football, and the Maui Invitational. So, and maybe the Bengals will play on Thanksgiving with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. So, Josh, real quick, I got to tell our listeners here, I'm sure you eat some Built Bars. I do too, because you see, this is the time of year that I've pretty much given up on all of my New Year's resolutions. Josh, did you make any New Year's resolutions?
No, not off the top of my head.
See, this is why we get along so well, because we don't make New Year's resolutions. I don't either. But if I were to have made some resolutions, I would have made it a point to eat more Built Bars, because it almost feels like it's not really a resolution. I enjoy eating them because Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, low calorie, high protein. You can replace your candy bars with these because they're better. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. Built Bars only contain 130 calories. Mint brownie, coconut, almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. That sounds good. They are all delicious and new flavors are coming out all the time. Maybe they should have white chocolate cookies and cream Built Bars for dessert at Skyline. If they think a flavor might be good, they'll make it. It will be delicious and it will be good for you. So you can go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Thanks again for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Alex Frank here with you, and Locked On Big 12 host Josh Neighbors, my guest today on Locked On Bearcats. Sweet 16 action tonight on CBS and TBS. West Region on CBS. Gonzaga, Arkansas tip things off, at 7 o'clock in San Francisco. That's followed by Texas Tech and Duke. Texas Tech, Big 12 school. Then in the South region, it will start at 7:30, Michigan and Villanova in San Antonio, and that is followed by future Big 12 school Houston and Arizona. So a lot on the line tonight. My bracket is once again going to be tested. I have Arizona winning it all. In most of my brackets, Josh, I have Arizona winning it all. But if Houston were to win, you know what? That looks good for the Big 12. It looks good for the Americans. So a win-win for me and a win-win for you. So I want to ask you some questions about the Big 12 in terms of this. So most casual college basketball fans know of Allen Fieldhouse because of the history, because of Kansas, which is a blue blood program. But what other arenas are fun, rowdy? What other arenas should we as Bearcat Nation look forward to for road games once we join the Big 12?
United Supermarkets Arena in Lubbock, Texas has become the best home court advantage in all of college basketball. It is a truly unique environment. They ran the table at home this year with a new coach and a new roster because that place is a madhouse. Allen Fieldhouse has the mystique, but we saw Kentucky go in there and roll KU this year. A lot of teams have played, TCU almost beat in there. I mean, it was a fortress to go to United Supermarkets Arena in Lubbock, Texas. Kirby Hocutt and company, deserves so, and Chris Beard too. I mean, he helped build this thing. That's a great arena. Hilton Coliseum's awesome. Octagon of Doom when that thing's rocking. Hopefully Jerome Tang can get that going. Gallagher-Iba Arena is known as a really difficult place to play at Oklahoma State. So you think about all of these places. OU and Texas are trying to build up their environments. WVU can have a good one when they are good. But yeah, I mean, Allen Fieldhouse is one I think we all go to immediately. But I mean, United Supermarkets Arena to me is definitely number 2, and then number 3 has to be Hilton Coliseum. Those are 3 extremely difficult places to go and win basketball games.
Do you think Fifth Third Arena can be up there once Cincinnati joins the conference? And because I will speak from experience, when Cincinnati is good, that place, especially since it's been renovated, I mean, there have been some loud games in that arena.
Yeah, they'll be in good shape. They'll be in great shape, and the environments around those new environments are going to be madhouses the first time around. I mean, the first time when Baylor and KU, and West Virginia and all of these, especially West Virginia too. I mean, I always forget how much storyline there is there between Bob Huggins and Cincinnati, but those are all the first time you see these great programs, and they're going to be great atmospheres. So I'm pumped for that, and that arena too will be a great place. The big key then is turning it into a place to win, and then also, I mean, snagging road victories is really difficult in this conference. Cincinnati will learn that. Like, you'll go to a place like Gallagher-Iba, it'll be half full because Oklahoma State can't make the tournament, and they give you all you can handle and more to go and win the game. So I mean, Cincinnati will learn that. But I think they definitely have a good advantage. BYU's gonna have a great home court advantage. Excited to see what Houston brings. And UCF, I'm not too high on that just yet. We'll see though.
It's all coming to the surface now why Cincinnati spent $87 million, the university did, on Fifth Third Arena getting renovated for this move. And then Houston renovated their arena, the Fertitta Center. And the best part for you and me, Josh, is can you imagine, like, when Kansas and Baylor go to Cincinnati? Like, I mean, your students are going to be camping out for tickets. But what's good for people like us is we can just submit a credential request, and chances are we'll be good to go. So, we'll be able to get into those. But I have a lot of respect for those students who camp out because they love Cincinnati basketball. But anyway, you mentioned Gallagher-Iba Arena, Oklahoma State. I I want to attend, and I can't wait to do this because Boone Pickens Stadium in football, and we're going to shift a little bit to football here because conference realignment, I'm sure you can attest, is driven by football. And Boone Pickens Stadium is so unique because of how close the benches are to the stands. So is that going to be the most fun, the rowdiest stadium from a football front? But what other stadium? And we got about 10 minutes here. What's that? What's the best football stadium in the Big 12 right now?
The best football. I mean, yeah, Boone Pickens is always a really exciting one to watch. OU has got a great atmosphere, and I know it's not going to be part of it anymore, but OU is a really tough place to play. I'll tell you what, Jack Trice is a really hard place to go and win. Iowa State's got an awesome home field advantage, and Matt Campbell has turned that thing into, I mean, such a great program, but that stadium is a really hard place to go in and win as well. So, yeah, I mean, there's a couple atmospheres that are improving. Oh, Baylor's new stadium's gorgeous, an absolute beautiful stadium. Totally forget, I'm blanking on the name right now, but they've got a really nice stadium as well. So, and then Jones AT&T is a rowdy place to go and play at Texas Tech too. Lubbock, they know how to get after it. So, a lot of exciting atmospheres. Kansas State's got the ability to pull some upsets. Hopefully, we can get Memorial Stadium at KU bouncing a little bit more too with some wins. But yeah, I mean, I think those places are all places that we think of off the top of our heads.
What are Houston, BYU, and UCF going to bring to the Big 12? Because those, I mean, UCF's got the bounce house. Houston's got a really
Yeah.
good basketball program. BYU's got a lot of history. They almost made the tournament this year, as you alluded to earlier. What are they going to bring to the Big 12 that's going to make it still a really, really good conference?
BYU brings a great following. Houston brings a great market, the fourth biggest, I think it's the fourth biggest city in America, great television market. UCF brings Florida. That's a place that a lot of people can't wait to go and play and have recruits come check you out, right? Florida's a fertile recruiting ground. West Virginia, too, one of the schools that's at their best when they're recruiting Florida very well. So a lot of schools are going to be taking advantage, and I think you're going to see a lot of it could be a good environment always for UCF, but I think a lot of road fans are going to take the chance to go to a place like Orlando or Provo, Utah, right? To go and experience that kind of environment. College football fans love new environments. So I think that's what I'm expecting, but especially in Orlando, I think having that Florida connection will be super interesting. Then obviously the Midwest connection to Ohio and Cincinnati will be cool to see too, fans when they go on the road there.
Do you anticipate the Big 12 football championship being played in any other stadium besides AT&T Stadium, or the basketball tournament being played anywhere besides Kansas City? Because I think those are great central locations,
Yeah.
but do you anticipate those changing?
No, I don't think you're going to see the Big 12 move out of Dallas. I think it's a great location for them. Arrowhead would be cool maybe once. I mean, look, the Kansas City's perfect. I know people complain because it's near KU, whatever, but it's a good centralized location. Power and light district next to it's awesome. It's a really good arena. They get a good fan attendance there from a lot of the fan bases, and so I think it's a good place to have it. Maybe you can move it to like a St. Louis. I don't know. Maybe an Oklahoma City at some point. No, but I think Kansas City is a perfect host town for it. So I don't think you're going to see those two move. I'd be curious as to. I mean, once again, Arrowhead maybe once for the football just to change it up some. But
I
I
would
think
be a big
Dallas.
fan of
I
that.
think I think Dallas remains the spot right now just because it's Texas, a centralized location.
Well, either way, the commonality between those places are there is some good barbecue there, from what
Mm-hmm.
I'm told.
Oh yeah.
So I am looking forward to the food scene, not just in Cincinnati, but in Texas and Oklahoma, and maybe Salt Lake City's got some good food out there. Okay, so final questions. I know you got to run, Josh. Texas and Oklahoma are leaving the conference, which I don't like to some degree because it would be really cool. Can you imagine Oklahoma and Texas coming to Cincinnati to play a college football game there, a conference game too, no less? And of course, they have beautiful stadiums, great campuses. What impact on the competition in the Big 12 are they going? Is that going to have them leaving to go to the SEC?
Well, it's the money part of it that's going to be tough. I mean, those are two of the biggest brands in all of college football. That part of it's difficult. I'll say that the basketball is not going to take too much of a hit. I mean, Texas wasn't really a factor at all in the Big 12 football race this year, and OU's the force to be reckoned with always, obviously. So, I mean, I think eventually Sark's going to get that thing humming, and I think Brent Venables is going to do a really good job at OU. So maybe this thing flips, and as Texas and OU leave the conference, they're the powers. But we just saw Oklahoma State and Baylor have a really good shot at making the college football playoff, and this thing's a 12-team playoff. The Big 12 puts 2 teams in, and neither team was Oklahoma, right? If this was a new Big 12, they would have put 3 teams in, right? Obviously different conferences, whatever, so that wouldn't have been the case. But look, like there were 3 teams vying for a college football playoff spot this year that were Big 12 adjacent, I guess you could say. So they're going to lose the money. That's going to be the big impact. But I think it's going to be the most fun conference now, especially in football. Like there are a lot of teams. I mean, here's the thing. You have to understand that every single year there's been a different challenger in the Big 12 championship game. Think about it. It's Iowa State, right? And Baylor and Oklahoma State. Kansas State's made a run. Texas had a run. OU's obviously had their success. All of these schools have, at some point or another over the last 7 or 8 years have made a push for a Big 12 title. And that cycling through of teams, I mentioned Iowa State before too. That's good. That's competitive. That's going to remain when Cincinnati and BYU and UCF show up. I think people are skeptical on the level of competition. Sure, but the talent development, I think, in my mind, is good enough. The recruiting might not be on par with other conferences, but the development and actual products in the field, they'll be just as good as the Pac-12. There's no doubt in my mind. They maybe not have USC, maybe not have an Oregon, but they'll be just as good as the Pac-12, and I'm not too concerned about it long term.
And just being in a Power 5 conference with all the resources and exposure and television, plus you get to play in a conference championship game in Dallas. I mean, this is what we want in Cincinnati. So, Josh, thanks for telling us all about the Big 12. I'm sure we'll have you on as we approach the move to the conference. Josh Neighbors from the Locked On Big 12 podcast, my guest today. Josh, thank you as always. I know you got to run, but thank you so much for your time. And best of luck moving forward to the conference, the rest of the tournament. Texas Tech playing tonight, Houston playing tonight, Kansas and Iowa State playing tomorrow. So Josh Neighbors, you can follow him on Twitter at @JoshNeighbors_. Josh, thank you.
It was a pleasure, man. Anytime.
Thank you. Josh Neighbors from the Locked On Big 12 podcast joining me today. That's going to do it for me today here on Locked On Bearcats. Thank you for making it your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On NFL Draft. Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker bring the NFL Draft to life every day with insight and analysis on college football prospects and NFL front offices. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at Frankie_Natty with 2 N's, NNATI. You can follow me on Instagram, AlexFrank9_ and email me at alex3frank@gmail.com. That's all lowercase, alex3frank@gmail.com. We'll be back tomorrow recapping all the Sweet 16. Well, actually, I usually record in the afternoon. So looking ahead to Friday, Sweet 16 action, 2 Big 12 teams. Bearcats baseball, a huge 4-game series against Xavier. This weekend series will be 3 games played in 3 different venues. How about that? And then next Tuesday is the Joe Nuxhall Classic, one of my favorite events that I got to cover and commentate when I was at the University of Cincinnati as a student. Thanks for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen every day. I'm Alex Frank for Locked On Bearcats. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I will talk to you tomorrow.